Mr.
Sanjay.
Sanjay Chandra ji, Madam Meenakshi Goyal ji, Tanuja, Bhandari, and Upasthit CRPF family members. First of all, I am really very delighted to be here, because this is one of the rare opportunities which we as a civilian get to interact with the person behind the uniform and the strength of those persons, that is their families and children. So I am really grateful to all of you for giving me this opportunity to meet you in person, even in this pandemic situation. In fact, this is my first lecture which is in person after the last February. So I am really very thankful, and in fact these opportunities also gave me to kind of go through what is CRPF, because we only know when there is something something happens, some disaster happens, right, or some riots happen. It is only CRPF marches and takes control of the situation, and unfortunately beyond that there is not much interaction. But definitely I went through your website and read about the Kirti Chakras and Mr. Bhrigu Singh Chaudhary's and hot spring battle and all those things. I mean, it is really inspiring, and I'm really thankful, sir, for this opportunity, because that also opens our mind towards the reserve forces. We will talk about renewables.
He's just sharing.
And thank you. So actually, I have designed this, marching ahead towards renewable and sustainable future. Because why we are going towards renewable energy, that is something I would like to little bit put some stress on, so that the younger generation, particularly, I understand there are a lot of school-going kids who are already learning about renewables are there, and then I hope that they will also understand the context of why we are doing it. When I started my career in renewables in '86, the very common comment which I used to get from my elders and others was that it is something is futuristic. Solar energy, it is futuristic. This was in '86, and when it was just starting. And today I feel that future is here, and our future, our kids or their kids, I think they are ready to accept this future and ready to change their destiny to a better environment, to better cleaner environment. And that is all I've been doing for last 30 years, to try to promote solar energy and renewable energy with different aspects, be it technology development or some projects. We have done a couple of projects with NDA and other institutions, and also with Army we have done a lot of work, and so and so forth. So towards policy and other institutes. So we will look at a few aspects. One is the relationship between development of a society and energy requirements. And when you need energy, how are you getting this energy? So essentially you are getting it from fossil fuel, and then what is its impact, and then how the renewable energy can reduce those negative impacts and give us a better sustainable future. And then of course in the end, sir, I would like to see what we can do together. Of course, I was really impressed with the kind of initiatives you have taken in different your camps and different workstations. As I understand, CRPF, it's about 2 lakh.
3.25 lakhs.
No, 3.25 lakhs. I may be having a old figure, but that's it's almost half of Bhutan's population. So it's as good as a country. And so I think it is important that you have taken such a great initiative. So when we are looking at development, we are essentially looking at sustainability in today's context. So it has three aspects: social justice, social sustainability, where one is looking at health and education to each and every member of the society. So that is also what is called as an inclusive development. So nobody is left behind, and equitable development. So everybody gets equal opportunities, be it poor, rich, small, young. So these are the three aspects of sustainable development in as far as social justice is concerned. One is also looking at economic development, because when you have economic development, your quality of life increases. So you have to have some economic opportunities for employment, for growing your skill sets, growing your knowledge. So has to be some progressive environment, and to have both these, we also need a healthy environment around it. So that means we need to have clean air, clean water, and natural resources, abundant resources for our sustainability. And for that, it is important to have conservation of ecology and nature on one side, and not to destruct it by our activities on the second side. So we are looking at some physical needs, some emotional, spiritual, and intelligence need, and that is how the overall quality of life will increase. And all this is primarily driven somewhere by the energy resources which we have and which we are using.
Next second.
Can you take it? Thank you. So now, so one of the indicator for human development of a particular society or the country is Human Development Index, which is developed by UN, and if you look at the human, so it contains all the aspects of society's development. But here we have a graph of countries having so each country is plotted again. So Human Development Index is on the y-axis, and x-axis you have the electricity consumption per capita for that particular society, and you will see the developed countries have very high electricity consumption, and they also have high Human Development Index. We are somewhere in the middle, or in this range, where we have Human Development Index very low as compared to other countries or the developed countries with whom now we are trying to compete, like as a developed economy. So what does that mean? That means if we want to grow further economically, we need to have more and more energy for our development, and that means we need to use more and more energy resources. Now, if you look at on the right side, you have primarily three energy resources: coal and petroleum based, that is petrol, diesel, oil, and natural gas. These are called as a fossil fuel because they formed by the fossil of forest for millions of years, and they are no doubt limited, but they are available. The major problem with fossil fuel is when you use them, you emit emissions which are primarily in the form of carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide proportion in the overall environment, if it goes beyond certain limits, you have what we call it as greenhouse effect. So that means carbon dioxide basically uh, traps solar energy which is falling on Earth's surface, and because of that there is a heating effect which is called as a greenhouse effect. Now this effect will increase the average temperature of the overall entire not on the local any area, but entire universe, entire global ambient temperature will go up, and that will have catastrophic effects. And one of the thing which we have seen that the natural calamities like the one which we had a couple of days back, which may not be because of that, but these type of calamities are increasing because of temperature, and that is to be avoided. Then we have to reduce our fossil fuel consumption, and for that, as sir said rightly, first step is to reduce the energy consumption itself, reduce the wastage of it and use it efficiently. So wastage reduction is one where you are not required, you are just not using it, not leaving lights on and all. But when you are using it, use it more efficient technology. For example, we have now the BE star marked air conditioners, washing machines and others. What they indicate, the more the stars, that means the more efficient the machine is. That means it is using less energy. So you are reducing the consumption of energy. That thereby you are also reducing your contribution to the GHG emissions, and that is also calculated as carbon footprint, because how much carbon you are emitting. The second option, once you have done that, there is a limit to efficiency, how much efficient you can do. The second option is go for a better energy resource. So typically the renewable energy resources are, as I mentioned there, solar, wind, bioenergy, ocean energy, geothermal and others. In the context of India, we have solar, wind, bioenergy and hydro, small hydro energy, which is, now in terms of solar, we have two ways of using solar energy. One, using it directly to generate electricity, which is called as solar photovoltaic, and what you have those installations at most of the places. Second is to use that solar energy to heat, to generate heat, and heat can be then used for whatever purpose you want, which is called as a solar thermal. And you might have seen some of the installations of solar water heating systems. That's the classic example of it. There are other like solar cooking or solar drying, which are unfortunately at current context they have little bit fall behind, because the solar PV where direct electricity generation is there, it gives larger impact, and it is more popular right now. In terms of wind energy, again most of it is used for power generation in wind farms. Now these wind farms can be on shore, that is on land, or now you have a lot of wind farms which are coming in sea, which are called as offshore wind farms. Of course, in India there are a couple of sites have been identified, but mostly in Europe, in near Norway or UK, some of these countries where land is limited, they are looking at seashore or inside the sea for wind power generation. Bioenergy has lot of resources. A, agriculture waste, B, forest waste, C, municipal solid waste, and industrial waste. Now these can be converted into either directly you can burn them to get heat and then solar, then electricity, or you can convert them chemically into what we call as a biodiesel, so replacement for petroleum or replacement for other coal and other fossil fuels. And we also have municipal solid waste which can be converted into what is called as a biogas. So the biogas is basically can be complemented with natural gas and used for cooking or even for bio CNG purpose after purification. So instead of compressed natural gas, what is CNG vehicles we can have bio CNG vehicles. And we have geothermal, of course. The couple of hot springs are there in Puga Valley and in some parts like Chhattisgarh and MP. But geothermal, as far as India is concerned, is not very developed, because these are solar, wind and bioenergy are economically easily feasible. They are cost competitive, and that's why they have been more popular. Now, one aspect of why we go for renewable is we want to reduce the degradation of natural resources. We also have pollution problem because of fossil fuel, air pollution particularly. You have seen pollution in cities because of diesel vehicles and petrol vehicles primarily. We have global climate change. I will a little bit explain about the climate change in couple of slides. And waste generation itself is becoming unsustainable. We have huge piles of waste, which is biodegradable waste and non-degradable waste like plastics. So we have to handle that also. And then we also have issue of resource depletion. So all these together are actually becoming threat for our civilization. So our civilization, as a human civilization, which is what we call as a modern civilization after the industrial revolution, is now staring at some really difficult situations in coming future, maybe 20 years or 50 years. It's not very far, because of our own actions, because of our own what we are doing today or what we have done yesterday. And that is where we are looking at all these complete issue of development, issue of how to use resources, how to use energy in a total format. Now, if you look at energy demand, there are three major areas. One is thermal energy, that is energy used for heating or cooling applications. Now, I have also shown in this what is the percentage of renewable energy we are using out of that. So thermal energy of total use is going into about 51%, which includes energy required for cooling, heating, cooking and other applications. The other chunk of energy is transport. We are using, mostly you will see here is energy coming from petroleum and diesel products. And third is electricity, which is power, about 37%. Now, if you look at the percentage of renewables currently which is used in these three types of energy utilization patterns, you will see that in power it is maximum. And that is why, because electricity generation with solar and wind, and also even the other sources like biomass or hydro, it is very easy and it is cost competitive with coal today, and that is why the percentage is increasing. And one is looking at now this percentage, for example, as sir mentioned in Paris Agreement, our commitment is out of our entire power consumption, about 40% we will have through non-fossil fuel or renewable fuels, including large hydro. And today we are at around 30% plus. So we are close, very close to that commitment as a country. Now, always there is a debate whether climate change is really happening, or it's only some people are just making propaganda out of it and all. But the scientific data and analysis done by large group of scientists across the globe has clearly indicated that the change is happening. And here you can see, absolute numbers are not necessary, but if we look at the global climate from pre-industrial area, where our average temperature, and if you are here about 1 degree, we already have 1 degree plus compared to that, and if we cross 1.5 degrees, then the estimation from simulation is that the changes will become rapid and they will not be controllable. We will find very less time to change back. So that is why the international community is after the commitments of various countries that to keep this global warming below 1.5 degree centigrade, so that we can avoid those catastrophic changes and non-reversible changes. And this is where you will see how fast we have now started using our fossil fuels. Around 1800 or so, coal and other coal and petroleum was discovered, and we started using it, and suddenly you will find within a gap of about 150 years, now we have suddenly gone up very high, and this is basically carbon emissions which are in billion tons. And what is important is we have to arrest this emission of CO2s by using renewable energy. Now there are a lot of studies. If we don't do anything, we will end up here, and which is not very good for us. And if we really take hard actions, we can go up to 1.5 degree pathway. Of course, by 2100, that's about another 80 years or so. And this is where we are looking at, in future, concentrating on renewables, concentrating on energy efficiency, and resource efficiency, so that we reduce our emission and control our climatic changes which are happening because of our actions. So energy transition is happening, and it is if you really look at some of the data, we have seen that last year from 2017, renewable energy capacity addition has outpaced fossil fuel addition. That means new capacities are coming in renewable energy in major way. We have also a large pipeline of renewable energy projects, and more importantly, the price parity of renewables with conventional source has been achieved in multiple markets. It's not only in India. We have now our solar price per unit of electricity is about 2 rupees discovered price, but coal is higher than that. So if instead of putting new coal power plant, it is it is advisable to put new solar power plant, and that is where we are heading towards. As I mentioned, our energy transition has couple of aspects. One is, of course, we want to reduce the fossil fuel pollution, so thereby we are also looking at electric vehicles and other opportunities to reduce city pollution. The economic burden of import of petroleum, because more than 75% of our petroleum requirement is imported. We have limited resources of petroleum and natural gas, and that's why we have to keep importing them. And that's also not only its economic burden, but it is also energy security issues, because we are dependent on nations where we may not be friendly with. Or if there are international security concerns, then the supply is supply is affected, and then you have energy security coming into a picture. The third aspect, as I mentioned earlier, is social developmental needs, because recently we have completed 100% electrification, but still you people probably knowing more because you have been traveling around the country, and that there are a lot of areas where availability of electricity is limited, or it's not 24/7, or quality is not there, and that's why social development is lacking in those areas. I will not get into Paris Agreement. Sir has already given good, review of what we have suggested, we have accepted. And as he mentioned, we have now target of 175 gigawatt of total renewable power generation. This is for electricity generation. Our current electricity generation capacity, including coal, hydro, nuclear, etc., is about 390 gigawatt, and we are looking at 175 gigawatt. But what happens is actual power generation from coal can be almost 2 to 3 times per gigawatt than compared to solar, because solar is available only during daytime. And the next target what Honorable Prime Minister has announced is about 450 gigawatt by 2030. So that means we are next capacity addition which we need for our economic growth will come from majority from renewables, and it contains all the four. So a small hydro about 5 gigawatt, biomass 10 gigawatt, because these resource wise they are very small quantities, but wind and solar will play a major role in future also in renewable power generation. Now I've given you why we have to go for it and how we are going about it and what we can do. Now there are two ways of looking at it. One is generating electricity and pushing it into the grid, which is the major power plants of solar or rooftop power plants which you have. So you are basically pushing that electricity into grid. But we have two different societies actually. One is of course the rural areas where you may not have adequate electricity supply or access to electricity, and our institute has been doing a lot of work in those areas also. So I would like to give some examples of what we have been doing, and I think that is one area where probably we can have some common ground to work together, because you are also mostly located in those areas. Now another UN initiative apart from climate change negotiations and Paris Agreement is Sustainable Development Goals. I think from the perspective of students and some of you are also teachers, Sustainable Development Goals is a UN initiative, and where there are 17 goals, different goals, and out of no poverty, no hunger, and collaborations, partnerships, etc. But goal number 7 is affordable and clean energy. So that is first time where energy is under focus, and also it is affordable and clean. So you are talking of very specifically about creating affordable energy access and availability for across the society. Now what we are doing, we have been working in rural areas for last almost 20 years as an institute, and we have been providing the different opportunities. See, initially government started with subsidy program by providing lights and home lighting systems. It is not sustainable. One, you have to spend money on on subsidy, and secondly, the families which are getting these devices are not able to even maintain it, because they don't have economic activity going on. Most of them are laborers or farmers, very low farming land, very small farming land and all. So what we started is integrating renewable application with economic activity with income generation. So you will see these couple of examples. So education, income generation and health, these are the three focus areas for development of economy. And that, so one of the activity, like for example this leaf plate making, this is very common in India, but if you provide good lighting facility, then they can do more work, they can do work with less stress on eyes and comfortably, and that's why their productivity also increases, thereby their income increases. And we have seen households changing their a living style or living patterns over a period of couple of years by having this. Somebody starting small tuitions in houses because they have now light, so it makes lot of difference for them. Same way, some income generation activities for youth, for example, grinding, and now this is very common, which is required everywhere, but only we are now running this using solar energy there itself, and they are becoming self-independent. Same way, vaccine refrigeration, where we have been, government is supporting it, of course, for storage of vaccines. Lighting for businesses and workshops. So what we have developed, we called it as Lighting a Billion Lives. So where we give the solutions, we design the solutions for them, we implement it, and then we train them so that they can maintain, and some of them can go into assembly of it and maintenance of it. So thereby increasing their skill set, and that is what we have been doing. So these are a couple of pictures across the country, and we have done this work in other countries like Kenya, Bangladesh, etc., where you will see irrigation pump set for drip irrigation and other facilities. Now, one of the good example which we have done under CSR initiative is powering the looms, hand looms, using solar energy. Thereby their productivity and quality is increased, their stress on the workers is reduced, and you have better production and better economic activity. So we have powered around 400 odd power looms in Varanasi, and this was funded by Indus Tower, which is basically mobile tower company. And recently we did another CSR initiative where we have replaced diesel powered motorboats which make noise and pollution in the ghats of Varanasi by solar powered. You can see here the solar charging station on shore, and there is a battery and electric boat driven, electric motor driven boat. So two advantages: absolutely no pollution, and secondly no noise pollution. So it is very quiet. And so these boats are now being promoted in other parts of country, in Kerala and other areas, and we are looking at different models and different capacities of these. So these are some of the examples, I will say. We also have biomass gasifier technology, where we can use biomass and generate gas. Biomass is a solid, so whether it is agriculture biomass or forest biomass, we can generate it, and we can generate electricity to run a cold storage and also provide electricity to villages. And these are small power plants of 50 kilowatt capacity or so, and we have done couple of quite number of such projects. About 20 of them we have done in Myanmar also, actually. And these are different applications of our biomass gasifier technology. Silk reeling workers. So this is a biomass gasifier where we burn the gas and generate heat for silk reeling. Now this is the basically to get silk out of the silk worm. It has to they have to boil it, and for that we are using solar. And then we have rubber drying and other applications, including bakery oven or cooking applications. So these are different technologies which are specifically for decentralized applications, for rural and economic activity applications. We are also working on what we call as mini grids or microgrids. So in a village you can have your solar power plant, or you can have wind power plant, or uh, small solar microgrid which can give electricity to the houses, which can give power to productive use, for example, or for farming, like solar pumps, or economic activity. And all this is kind of a self-sufficient network of electricity with some battery storage and different type of resources. It can be small wind, or it can be solar, or it can be biomass, etc. And so these are so these microgrid based village development is another aspects which we are taking. So, just to conclude and summarize, we need to conserve our environment and ecology to give quality life for our future generation. And as I have seen, we have seen energy is major driver for development, and that's why we are now shifting towards renewable and clean energy resources which can provide abundant energy and sustainable development options. And innovation and socially relevant technologies can change lives of people, and that is what we are trying to do. And we want you to lead their sustainable future using these interventions. And I'll just skip this. Well, I have mostly explained what we are doing. So we have three, whatever we do, we are a research institute, so we call it as a research. And so we have technology development, we have policy and advocacy, and we have technical services for corporates and institutions, etc. So quickly, this is what TERI has been doing since its inception in '74. And so we work in variety of areas. You can see at the bottom of the slide, in energy, in agriculture, environment, habitat, we have building rating system, we have resource security, climate change, and health and nutrition. So we are trying to cover all aspects of sustainable development in our activities. And we work not only in India, but we also work closely with a lot of research and institutes, lot of international agencies, companies, etc. And this is the kind of network which we have with various agencies. So now, sir, this is what we would like to suggest. Of course, you are going ahead in variety of installations for your this thing, but what we can look at is something beyond that, where your other schools activities are there, where we have a good environment education team which has been running international competition for Green Olympiad, what we call, probably some of you may be aware of it. But we can specifically focus some of the activities jointly with CRPF and develop some projects. Our interaction with most of the military and paramilitary forces is, getting budget sanctioned is always a problem. And it takes a lot of time. Meanwhile, the officers change, and then whole thing goes back to zero. I mean, this is a very practical difficulty. Everybody has a very good intention, everybody works hard, but end of the day, what we can probably look at is integrate it with CSR funds. And CSR from either central government institutions, PSUs can definitely help it, yes. And I think they will jump for it actually. And we can integrate with health, with education and environment, all the three aspects of it. And that's why I thought I will specifically mention it here, because we have all the health group. I am also working on a new project where I am developing a solar biomass dryer for agriculture drying. And right now we have got a funding where we are setting up couple of about 25 dryers in Maharashtra for tribal areas and specially able Divyang institutions. Because the whole idea struck me about 20 years back, or even not even 20, maybe 15 years back. We had all these STD booths, all over the country, wherever I have used many number of times, because that was the only way you can communicate when you are on travel or something. And they were mostly run by Divyang people. And suddenly they vanished. And that's when we had a discussion with commissioner from Maharashtra on who is handling this portfolio of specially able department for specially able people, and he said, now we don't know what to do because it is not possible to have those STD booths and all. So that's when we started doing what else we can do, and the idea came that yes, solar drying is one aspect, and we are now developed the technology. I could not show it here, but probably maybe we'll share later on. But and that is now we will be implementing it, and it is again an income generation model for them and for tribals. So my idea is basically of this interaction is, if you have any idea and any problem where you think we can be of any help, just bounce it off to us. I mean, we are a 1,000 researcher team, experts in variety of areas, and we can internally discuss and come out with some solution for your problem. Because you are spread across the country, you have seen variety of issues, and that's why we thought maybe we can have some kind of a memorandum of understanding, just a framework, so that it becomes easier for formality purposes or for practical purposes.
We'll surely work on it. It's a very good offer, and
Yeah.
we would look forward to further interactions with you. In fact, we could also take it further beyond our CRPF now.
Yes.
In terms, we have a civic action program too, where we are mandated to do some extra activity which is socially beneficial to places around our units or wherever we are deployed.
Okay.
So a lot of schemes could then be dovetailed with that aspect also, and then we could
Sure.
take it on a much broader perspective. Of course, CRP and the CRP families would surely benefit.
Yeah.
So after this meeting, we'll surely get back to you
Thank
and
you,
take it
sir.
further.
So
Thank you so much.
this is where I will stop. These are a couple of our installations, and one of the installation I was very happy to see that you have this one of the site you have the kind of solar tree, and this is something which we have done in Mumbai in Panvel, where the bottom to these trees. So in the night, this tree there are solar modules on the top of it, and the whole thing gets illuminated. It's a garden, public garden. So one of the attraction of the garden is this. So these are ways to popularize the concept basically. Of course, today people understand it very well, but still, and a couple of other installations are on top for. This one is in Assam, I think, with the Assam Rifles or something. This is solar cum biomass cold storage system, and this is again a biomass gasifier system. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope I have given you enough
Absolutely.
good time for you,
It was a great pleasure having you.
because it's important to have this interaction for us.
Very nice of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank